This episode of Keys to the Shop is brought to you by Prima Coffee. Whether it's espresso machines, manual brewing devices, or general coffee shop needs, they seek to pursue the most innovative coffee products, both domestic and abroad, to offer their customers. Find out more at prima-coffee.com. This is Keys to the Shop, Episode 50, Baristas Speak, Volume 2, Interviews from the Kentuckiana Coffee Champs Pre-lims. Well, hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop. I'm glad you decided to join me today on this 50th episode of the show. I can hardly believe it. It was actually International Podcast Day and I think International Coffee Day all at the same day. I think it was this Friday on the 30th. I could be mistaken, but they're dangerously close to one another. So being a coffee podcast is a very special weekend. It's especially special that we had Coffee Champs Pre-lims over the past weekend where a bunch of people from the surrounding areas of Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, etc., decided to come to Louisville and compete for the Coffee Champs Prelims in the Brewers Cup and the Barista competition. This was hosted by Quills, and that's where the episode that you're going to hear now was recorded. Now, before we get started into our episode, we are going to be changing things up a little bit, and we're going to be starting our episode by talking to you about our sponsor for Keys to the Shop, whom we are very grateful for, and that is, of course, say it with me, Prima Coffee. Now, if you don't know very much about Prima Coffee, they are an equipment supplier, a specialty coffee equipment supplier, and they're based here in Louisville. Now, from the beginning of the company, since they first started, it's always been their goal to make the best coffee brewing equipment available, not just to the industry, but to the general public. So their focus in this is on curating the best equipment for every need. That goes from grinders to espresso machines, even under-counter fridges, and anything in between. If you go to prima-coffee.com, you can find out what they have to offer. Reach out to them. They are great to talk to, great service. So prima-coffee.com. They put a huge emphasis also on having the expertise to help their customers get the right gear to fit every situation that you have. So I'm a fan. I use them in the stores here in Louisville where I manage, and they support the industry. And as we've seen this weekend at the preliminaries, they support the community heavily. So thank you, Prima, for your support of the coffee community and also for your support of Keys to the Shop. So in honor of the 50th episode of Keys to the Shop, first of all, I want to honor you as the listener and say I am extraordinarily thankful for you. This weekend, I got to meet quite a few people who said that they are fans of the show, which is extremely humbling for me and exciting to get to meet people face-to-face who listen to the show, and I'm eternally grateful to you all. Thank you so much. It's been a wild ride so far, and I've learned a ton, and I hope you have as well. Now, in honor of the Big 5-0 for Keys to the Shop, I wanted to interview 5 people this weekend who can give us some good perspective on barista work. And I think I've got a good lineup for us. In the order that they appear in this episode, we have Nathan Quillo, who is the owner and founder of Quills here in Louisville, Kentucky. Quills was the host of the Kentuckiana Coffee Champs Pre-lims, and I was really grateful to get to sit down and chat with him. Next, we have Sam Miers, who had a really great Brewers Cup routine, and when I interviewed him, that was day 1. And it turns out that Sam actually won the Brewers Cup with that routine. So congratulations, Sam. Glad to have gotten to be your timekeeper for that episode. I did a little stopwatch action this weekend just to, throw in a helping hand. But yeah, so Sam Miers, who is a barista over at Kaldi's Coffee in St. Louis. We talked to him for a few minutes, and then we get to talk with Cimara Dunn. Cimara is the Director of Education for Quills. She did a lot of work over the past weekend helping organize this event, and I love the perspective that she brings to the table. Next, we're going to be talking to Matt Park, who is the co-owner of Plus Coffee in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Matt has been a longtime barista / manager, and now as the owner of this business, he's doing great things in Chattanooga, helping bring the progressive coffee movement to that city. And then finally, to go out with a bang here, we're going to be talking with the one and only Rita Kaminsky. Rita is the co-founder, along with her partner Ant Wallach, of Snowdrift Coffee and Workspace out in Roscoe, Illinois. Rita is a longtime coffee industry veteran. She has an impressive resume of places she has worked, experiences she's had, a lot of management, a lot of training. She was a judge this weekend, a tech judge here, and I was excited to get a chance to sit down with her and discuss our topic, which is, of course, barista work. I asked all 5 people basically what they've learned in their time as baristas, what their impressions were of the barista's role in the industry, what are some important characteristics of a great barista, what have they learned during their times as baristas, and also what advice would they give to current and future baristas to set them on the right trajectory. So I would really encourage you to listen to the folks here in this episode. What they have to say is extremely valuable, and years and years of coffee service experiences are sitting across the table from me in these interviews, and I try my best to draw from their experiences and deliver to us something that can really help you in your career. So I hope that it's useful to you. Now you're going to hear some background noise, conversations, music, cheering, announcements, things like that. And that's normal. This is just done live. So hopefully that will actually just enhance the experience and make you feel like you were there, here with us in Louisville at the Coffee Champs Pre-lims. Wish you were here. But anyway, this is the second best thing that I can think of, is listening to these coffee professionals talk about what they do best. So with that, let's get to these conversations for Baristas Speak Volume 2. So I'm sitting here with Nathan Quillo of Quills Coffee, the founder himself, out in this beautiful fire station location. How long has this been open so far?
We opened in July with a few finishing touches that took place over the rest of the summer. And then we just had the ribbon cutting for the roastery and the full place 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the mayor was here.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's been great. He lives near our Baxter location, so he comes in regularly. Well, he's been coming in for years. I remember he had all his. They have to have meetings when the other candidates or the people running for mayor concede, so he had all his concession meetings at Baxter. So nice. He's a fan, and he popped in before we were open. He's like, "When are you gonna open? When are you gonna open? When are you gonna open?" So he's been really cool.
Shout out to Mayor Greg Fisher.
Exactly.
Good job. So how's this weekend been going? We're here at the Coffee Champs Pre-lims, and this space is perfect for it.
It's been great. I've had very little to do with all the planning up front. I've been pretty busy with some other things, but the team has put it together really well. I'm really proud of them. The judges are really, really impressed so far. Several of the judges have pulled me aside and said the space, but more so just the hospitality, the organization, being prepared. So I'm really proud of that the guys, kind of carry forward what we see in their individual jobs into this that can be seen as sort of a fun event. So
yeah, it's been great, well coordinated from what I can tell, and this episode is number 50 for Keys to the Shop. And
congratulations.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I feel 50.
You don't look it.
Well, geez, you're making me blush. So we had a previous episode, Baristas Speak, where we talk with baristas about the barista profession. You're in a unique position because you facilitate so many baristas' jobs and their perspectives on specialty coffee, things that they carry with them their whole lives after they leave, or if they're long-term employees. I wonder if you would share sort of your driving philosophy of barista work
and how you see yourself fitting into facilitating that with Quills.
I mean, as far as the baristas go, we don't really look for people that have coffee experience necessarily. Now that we're several years in, 10 years in, that usually happens by default because our brand, a little bit of recognition, so a lot of coffee people want to come and work here. But that's not the driving force for us. It's more about, are you hospitable? Do you like to learn? Do you like to enjoy life in the sense of being with people, eating good food, drinking good drink, making everyone feel comfortable at the table? And so that's what I look for and what our team looks for as far as starting off with the barista. And then as far as facilitating, their career in coffee, we know that will be very few. But for those that decide or actually can make their way in coffee, we want to prepare them as best as possible. So, the emphasis on roasting, on coordinating with SCA, and those sorts of things are really important to us. So.
Cool. So when you interview a candidate or your managers interview a candidate to work in the stores, is it just an it factor that you look for? Like all those things that you listed, sometimes it's hard to find out that a person ticks those boxes by just an interview.
Right. Yeah, it usually is an it factor. It's gut. And I've run most of this business on gut, and a lot of hiring on gut, a lot of saying no to things by gut, and I'm really thankful for that. And I think that I've tried to train all the managers. Here are the things we look for. Here are the lists. Here's the criteria. But also here's this other thing called intuition. It's called gut. Lean into it. Don't be afraid of it. And if you feel it, I trust you. Tell me. And even if I think they're gold, we're not going to hire them, because I just know that like so many of our customers, they're just so insecure. They don't know what to do when they step through the doors.
Sure.
And they have to have that it factor. And for me, the it factor is like if you can make them feel very comfortable, not talk down to them, but totally be passionate about coffee and about what we do, that's a special thing. And not everyone can throw a party. And so we look for the people that can throw a party. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Every customer who walks through the door, even with a very, if it's specialty coffee, I think ultimately they psych themselves out. And the menu could be the easiest menu. We could do the milk and coffee menu instead of a cappuccino menu.
Right.
But we have to absorb people's anxiety and turn it into something great.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could say a little bit more about the barista's role in the industry at large, because we have this whole chain of quality that goes behind us, all these hands touching the coffee.
Right.
And the barista has this really, it's like the zenith of the experience is right there.
Right.
So how does that strike you? What is the barista's role in all of that?
Well, I think they need to be incredibly educated, but incredibly humble. I just think that they have to, again, and that's part of that it factor, humility. I love it when they can laugh and smile and just put someone at ease, but then back it up right away with a lot of education. What do you like? What are your favorite flavors? What do you drink at home? What do you what are you used to when it comes to coffee or tea or whatever it is, just some starting point. So, I mean, we really talk a lot about that with all of our baristas. And the funny thing is for me is that it used to be, I had to spend a lot more time on that maybe 10 years ago. But because of the shift in consumers and because specialty coffee really, I mean, I know on a grading scale, we're still specialty, but from the public's perspective, it's not as special anymore because it's very commonplace. Boutique food and food culture is everywhere. So it used to be that people would come in and have no idea what a pour over is. Now we have like sophomores in college, from a sorority saying, "Can I get a V60 or whatever?" So it's awesome. And so our baristas have to be even that much more educated, but still be hospitable and just offer, try to meet people where they are. So.
That could be a struggle when you get really educated because you don't know how to hold that in suspension. I know your wife works in the medical field.
She does.
And, I grew up, my mom was a night nurse in an intensive care unit. And they always have to go through the testing where even if you're never going to use it, you have to know it.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I think barista work is kind of like that, where that elevation, that processing, that one time you're going to use it, like 6 months from now, it's worth it. But you don't have to give it to everybody every day to make it worth learning.
Right. I remember when we first hired Cimara, who's our educator now. She was over in New Albany, and that particular store is just a tricky one. A lot of blue collar folks that diner coffee is just fine, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I remember watching a guy walk in one day, and one of the baristas had, just really explained all the nuances of this single origin that we had, and the guy ordered a Chemex. He seemed so excited, and he walked right over to the condiment stand and just poured creamer into the Chemex, a couple sugars, and just swished the Chemex around and proceeded to drink out of the Chemex. And we're like, well, you got to start somewhere. And no one, no one treated him with any kind of contempt or whatever. It was fine, but we've come a long way. So
that is an awesome story.
Yeah,
I wish I would see somebody drink out of something strange like that. So advice from now 10 years. This is actually your 10-year anniversary this year, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're now 10 years in. Originally, you were working as a barista when you first started, and now you're facilitating all of these barista jobs. Someone who wants to get into being a barista, they want to even get into a career of coffee. What is your advice to them?
Well, start drinking and tasting coffee, obviously. Learning about coffee, pretty fundamental. I think, again, honing your people skills. I think that's what owners, managers look for. All the coffee stuff can be taught. And if you're passionate, again, about life and engaging people, and you like coffee, you can learn all those things. So I think now there's a lot of competition out there as far as that maybe the education, maybe all the brands, maybe the look, the style. And so that's good. But again, at the end of the day, it's still a service industry, and managers look for people that care about people, and our owners look for those kinds of people. And those are the folks that become managers and become general managers and become trainers and educators, because they just understand what it means to learn and want to learn and want to grow. And so baristas, I say, practice your latte art, sure. Practice, on different espresso machines. For me, it was just going around and asking a lot of questions, going to all kinds of coffee shops, not just the cool shops, but also the not cool shops, and finding out as much as I could about coffee. I think that still holds true today, really, with industry, any industry. And again, just learn how to work with people. That's the biggest, X factor that walks through the door every day. It's great when you get a bunch of coffee nerds that want to geek out with you, but most of the time that's just not the case. So you have to learn to be a professional, take all the knowledge you have, be gracious, be kind, be patient, and to teach. And teaching's not easy. Teaching, again, is about serving people, and I think that if you do that, you'll be a barista and maybe own your own shop one day.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for sharing all that with us.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for hosting this event.
Man, I think it's going to get wild. It should be fun. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow, too. So
yeah, it's going to be good times.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so Sam Miers, you went today at Coffee Champs Pre-lims. You work with
Yes, sir.
Kaldi's in St. Louis. So I really enjoyed your performance.
Thank
You
you.
had a lot of great things to say about relationships, sharing coffee. How long have you been a barista?
I've only been a barista for about 2.5 years.
Okay. And I wonder if you could share the story of how you got into coffee, because it was part of your routine.
Absolutely.
And it has kind of a family feel to it.
Yeah. So basically, I was talking about how we not only share coffee, we not only share experiences, we share those experiences over those wonderful cups of coffee.
Yeah.
And as I got into the routine, it wasn't until last week that I realized that all of my most precious good experiences with coffee are with my family. So even thinking about my dad drinking Folgers, and all the times that I had followed my brothers to coffee shops to watch music shows at night and things like that.
Yeah.
But whenever I would visit my brother from Missouri out to Louisville, he'd bring me to Heine Bros and to Sunergos, and he would make me French presses at home. And that's what got me hooked on incredible coffee.
Yeah. And so you just wanted to work in coffee after that, obviously, because it was so great, right?
Actually, no, I hated the pretentiousness of it. I could not see myself being a barista, and for the longest time, I couldn't make the connection between things like these coffee championships and home.
Okay.
And that was a big problem to me.
How did you solve that?
I mean, it was essentially watching my brother make his coffee in such a simple but incredible way. He would buy the right beans, he would measure out his temperature, he would use the right water. He drives this big electrical lineman's truck. He has a jet boiler, one of those like jet boiler things for camping.
Yeah.
And he has this gooseneck kettle and an AeroPress in this big blue collar worker truck.
You don't find that very often.
No.
Yeah.
And so that's why it kind of made me feel okay with it, you know?
A coffee is a cup of coffee.
Yeah. And I mean, even just talking about the TDS of water, I often feel like maybe I'm being too first world.
Oh, sure.
And
Sure.
I'm ignoring real problems in the world, or I'm not connecting to massive demographics, and it feels like a very elitist thing.
Okay. No, I can see that.
Yeah.
And so, as a barista, is sort of what is the ethos that you bring behind the bar with you? What makes being a barista a meaningful act for you?
So I really love connecting to professors and artists and the people who come in and they're looking for a pour over and a single origin espresso. But even more so, I love it when the people who are working on the buildings in downtown Columbia come through our shop and they say, I just need caffeine. And I get to turn that into a wonderful experience where I listen to them. And if they want something that a barista would cringe at, I figure out a way to give them what they want and more.
Okay.
And like talk to them and ask them, what do you like? How can I make this better for you? And a lot of people like ignore that demographic, but I mean, everybody wants something good, even just to be treated like a person in a coffee shop and not feel judged.
Does it feel weird to say that? Everyone wants to be treated like a person and something good. It's like if we have to say that to ourselves, like in our industry, like that's the kind of thing you shouldn't have to remind yourself, that other people want nice things too and to be treated well. Yeah, and a lot of people are somewhat turned off by some of our pretension, but meeting them where they're at, I like that, you know? What kind of advice would you give to somebody who is on the verge of becoming a barista? Like, how should they enter into this profession? I mean, or as temporary as the profession might be, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just listen to people, taste coffee, share it with people. So even if it's as simple as making French presses, I know that's one of those things that kind of look down on. I use the Clever Dripper in my routine.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were telling me I shouldn't use a Clever Dripper because it's like the introductory, it's the crutch, it's too easy. And you know what? Like, most of the people who have won the competitions in past years have used full immersion with a filter. And it's just like this stigma
for things that are simple or classic, but those are the things that are easiest to share.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is a lot of times in our pursuit of inclusion, we get really angry at the people who are not very good at including, and then we become a little bit self-contradicting, where we hate the Trump supporters, the blue-collar workers, the people who seem close-minded.
I think, yeah, there is a sense in which we can, as an industry, I think, at least from my perspective, we can be cliquish, and
Right.
the people that get it, they don't, and the people that don't. We can make these kind of judgments. I remember Barista Hustle having this thread about bias, and we all have bias.
Yeah.
We all look at a group of people or a person and how they look or how they speak or whatever. We make certain judgments about them, and that's where I think what you're talking about in your routine, Nate, can help break down those walls that we erect ourselves, in our mind.
I had a friend who made a V60 with Folgers. And he was talking about how much better his coffee was. And I was like, yeah, go for it. Folgers. And it's like, man, he has a bunch of kids. He doesn't have a lot of money. And like, that's an amazing step. So support those things, the little things, and just help people enjoy not only coffee more, but how they make coffee for their family or just their daily routines.
Nice. Words of wisdom. I love it. Man, thank you. Thanks for taking time.
Happy to talk.
Great. Well, I'm here with Cimara Dunn, who is the Director of Education at Quills, here at this lovely firehouse, fire station. Is it firehouse or fire station?
We've been saying firehouse, yeah.
Whatever you want.
It could be.
Yeah.
It was both, so.
I'm really disappointed that there's no fire pole.
There was a Dalmatian here earlier, so.
Oh, cool.
There is a
like
fire pole, actually.
A real?
I'm so sorry, yeah.
There is?
We maintain the fire pole. It's up at the laptop bar.
Oh, okay, cool. So you have been a barista for how long now?
I have been in coffee for 3 years.
Okay.
Just hit my 3-year mark.
Nice, congrats.
Last month. Thank you so much. It has flown by. I got into coffee through the Quills baristas. Actually, one of the big reasons I became really curious about the industry and not just being a consumer was going to competitions before I started working in coffee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the Big Eastern competition in Durham.
You just have friends that went?
Yeah, I became friends with some of the baristas here, and then that year we actually had Houston Miller, Jesse Miers, and Michael Butterworth were all competing at Big Eastern, as well as James Toole, which is a friend. He worked for Quills previously, representing. So it was a really good crew going. I kind of tagged along, and I'd been going to like latte art throwdowns and stuff like that, but seeing everyone take it very seriously kind of elevated it for me, and I had a ton of questions after that. And then over time, just kind of befriending a lot more baristas, you kind of get absorbed in Louisville. That's kind of the way it works. It's pretty small coffee community. So
yeah, it's pretty tight actually. I've only been here in Louisville for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised by that. It's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Were you into coffee beforehand though?
Sort of. I grew up in a rural town in West Texas, so I drank a lot of not very great coffee for a really long time, being one of those almost like coffee moms, like being like I love coffee, I always have to have my hazelnut, when I was a kid, like growing up in like junior high and high school and stuff like that. But then when I visited Louisville before I transferred here in college, that's when I moved here, one of the places that was recommended to me, my very first visit, was Quills. So Quills was the first place I actually went in Louisville when I visited, and a year later is when I actually moved here. So my whole history has kind of been this company, which was it's a little interesting.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. So
nice.
How has it been being a barista?
Great. It's really challenging. It's totally different from any other position that I had held before. I worked as an educator at a zoo before I got into coffee, and then before that was like pet stores and things. So like most everything was kind of focused on those fields. So it's different. It's challenging. I had to grow a lot, especially in my communication with people, keeping up. You kind of develop a personality, like a persona for your bar experience, and so like developing that was really handy. Really difficult. It was really challenging, and so it just totally took me out of my comfort zone, and it's been awesome. It's been a great growing experience.
You feel like strong now?
Yeah, super strong. Yeah. It's been great. This community is so encouraging, and everyone here at Quills has a lot of common goals related to coffee, relating to the industry surrounding coffee, and just kind of the issues that the whole industry is facing, and talking about what we can do to be better. We're always trying to be better. It's been great. Yeah.
Oh, certainly. Any coffee shop, even a big coffee shop or a little one, has power to make a difference, because you never know who's walking through your doors. A lot of people who have even they have anonymity maybe, but they're powerful people. They say, I had a really great cup of coffee in this coffee shop. I couldn't even tell you where it was, but I decided to start my philanthropic journey at that point and save the coffee farms.
Yeah, right.
Hey, that's a long shot. I don't know. So a barista could be responsible for saving coffee just because they were nice to a customer and made a good coffee. Right.
Even so, just making people feel welcome. Anyone who walks through your door, making sure that anyone who comes in feels like they are part of that community, not alienating people. Coffee shops should be community spaces. So that's something that I always want to focus on for our cafes, making sure we reflect the community and that we're open to everything that comes into us, and accepting those criticisms and growing with them, which we all will have at some point.
We can be a little insular in our community in coffee, and it's almost like we have this like this is our little city of coffee, and then there's a community that our city exists in, and so there's this wall between the customer and the barista.
I think that one of the things that we constantly have to refocus on is the fact that service and hospitality are different things, and making sure that everyone who is working on bar understands that it's not up to a customer to come up to you and know what they want, kind of deal, like coming up to them, and it's you're there to work together to figure out what will make them happy, and that can come in a lot of different forms. So I think that it's hard to kind of break down that kind of entitlement complex that can happen on both sides, but we can fix one side. So
why do you think that? And not to put you on the spot or anything, because this might be like a deeper psychological or philosophical question, but why do we get on either side entitled in the service? The giving of coffee, we can be entitled on our side, and the receiving of coffee. What is that?
A lot of it, I would I sort of guess, I suppose, is routine. So for a barista, they have a routine. They're doing the same thing over and over and over, so it starts to seem really simple to them. And so when someone comes in and doesn't maybe understand the system, that makes them really impatient and feels like that maybe they're being mistreated or their time is being abused by this other person, because obviously to them it's very clear. And I think the exact same thing can be said on the other side. As a person who maybe hasn't visited a lot of little niche specialty coffee shops who like to change their menus all the time or use weird words outside of what they're used to for the same drinks, or say, yes, but well, our cappuccino actually is this kind, or whatever. You have a routine. Coffee is associated with routine, everywhere. So as a consumer, if you have a routine, you go and you order the same thing every time, and you go into a coffee shop and you say that, and it doesn't mean what you had thought it meant before, it's not necessarily your fault. But if someone is trying to explain to you that that isn't the case, then you feel like you are being mistreated or your time is being abused, and it shouldn't be that hard because this seems very simple because you've done it everywhere else. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I really respect shops who change up their menus a lot to kind of keep that culture in their shop. People come to them because they know that things are going to be different, and they know they're going to have like a different experience when they go in there. That is very difficult to break into in a small city, especially, I think.
I like that. I like that the expectation is managed by the change. Mm-hmm. That's tricky. It
is tricky.
What a trick. So as you've experienced a lot of the coffee industry just through competitions, through this community here in Louisville, but so many people that end up in Louisville are from different places, and they represent different aspects of the coffee community, and we're all kind of mutts in that way,
right.
with our experiences. So if you could sum up your career in coffee so far in like in headline form, what would it say? Like, what's the major theme of your time in coffee?
I don't know if I could sum this up in a headline, but I do think that I have learned a lot about being patient with everyone else around me, because so many people have been patient with me while I've been learning. People haven't just been in a hurry and written me off, which I know happens to a lot of people. I'm very lucky. And so that has really, I guess, given me more of a keen eye and like seeking out people who maybe aren't trying to take the spotlight, I guess, all the time, and making sure that they feel like they have that same attention, or someone who lets them know, like, I see that you're doing your daily stuff, like you're putting all of this stuff in. I know that you're committing to this. You might not want to be on the competition stage. Whether you do or not, that's fine. But that doesn't make you less of a like star barista. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that because people have invested in me, even though I haven't necessarily sought out the same kind of route to break into some of the roles that I've been in, or I think just people have been really kind, yeah, and just very patient with me and like helping me through this journey so far. And so I definitely am excited to be in a role where I can do that for other people.
Nice. Beautiful. Yeah. So advice to baristas. Sorry. So advice to baristas or future baristas, let's say people who want to make coffee a career. What kind of advice would you give them?
My advice would be to ask questions of your baristas. If you want to work at a coffee shop and you ask about a coffee and it seems like they don't really feel like talking to you about it, you might think about choosing a different coffee shop to ask questions at, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, people have off days, but at Quills, we have no preference whether or not someone has coffee experience. So I feel like I waited a long time to apply at a job that I knew that I wanted, because I felt like everyone else there was expecting so much more. Like, there's no way that I could break into this place, look at everything that they know and they do, and they go to these competitions. I don't know anything about this kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I would say go for it, and know that it's okay not to know anything. That's what everyone around you is there for. Being unafraid of that is going to help you in the long run so much more. I think a lot of people are afraid to ask questions starting out. They don't want to seem like they're too far behind, and that ends up stunting their growth. So that's probably the best advice I could give someone who is looking to start working in coffee. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cimara,
for
breaking that down for us and teaching us what you've learned. It was great.
It's been a lot. Yeah, there's a lot that I've learned. So.
All right. So Matt Park, co-owner of Plus Coffee in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah.
You're here.
Yeah. How's it going, Chris?
Welcome here.
Thanks so
It's
much,
going
man.
great.
Good.
We're talking about barista work, and you started your career. Did you start your career at Sundergass?
No, I started actually back in the day with Kaldi's for a short stint, and then 4 years with Starbucks, and then into Sundergass. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And from Sundergass, did you go to Tennessee right after that?
No, I did like 2 years with Quills.
Okay.
Here in Louisville. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's good to be back.
Yeah, man, you've come full circle here.
Yeah, super fun.
Sweet. And now you own your own shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's that going?
It's going all right. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Chattanooga's a great town to start a business right now. So.
Okay. So when you became a barista, I mean, were you anticipating becoming an owner of a coffee shop? Did you have that much foresight?
I think I always kind of wanted to start a coffee shop. I don't know that I knew what that meant when I started thinking about that. I was thinking about places that weren't necessarily like bars, but like a community space where people could gather. And in my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, we just didn't have spaces like that at the time. So
yeah. So here now, you've spent a lot of time being a barista. How many years total have you been a barista?
I think I'm coming up on my 12th year.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. What has barista work meant to you? Like, what is barista work's place in the industry?
Man, I think the barista is the backbone of the coffee industry for the most part. I mean, with the exception of the producers in growing countries, like they're doing, I think, the bulk of like the labor.
Okay.
And then, they're the face of most coffee companies for most people. So
yeah,
they're
for better
interacting
or for
with
worse.
customers. For better or for worse, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so being the face of a company, there's a lot of training that's involved in that. There's
one would hope.
Like we say, kind of in a funny way, for better or for worse. And sometimes it is not for the better. How do you compare your barista work at the last half of your career as a barista, where now as an you're still a barista,
Sure. Yeah, I'm behind the bar all the time.
But you're also got a lot of other responsibilities. What's changed in the way that you've viewed the world of barista work?
I think originally it was just a job, I loved coffee when I started, and I loved the idea of interacting with people on a daily basis, but now it's a lot more labor intensive, and I see like the value of hard work a lot more.
How so?
Yeah.
How so?
Oh, how so? I think there's a lot of work that goes into running a coffee shop that most maybe baristas don't even know. Like in the office or like on QuickBooks or whatever that might be. It's like stuff that I never thought of, and it seemed so easy years ago. And now I'm pretty blown away by what it takes, I think.
It's kind of like looking underneath the watch face and seeing all that stuff underneath.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know what time it is, man.
Sure.
Like,
Absolutely.
I just want to make some coffee.
Yeah.
And then you get further and further down the rabbit hole, and you find out there's spreadsheets involved, and there's lots of numbers and things that kind of suck.
Yeah. And people.
And well, there's great people, but there's also, there can be sucky people too.
Sure.
Involved.
Sure.
So, now when you're looking for people to hire for your company, what is it that you're looking for in a barista?
Right now I'm really intrigued by looking for people that aren't necessarily like coffee people, but like people that have really unique talents and skills, like graphic designers or marketing and media like degrees and stuff like that, because I think it's stuff that we really need in the coffee industry to kind of round out what we're doing. I think as specialty coffee has increased in demand, I think we've seen we're looking at shelves full of coffee, and like the stuff with the packages, right, are a big deal. And like what's behind that package is super, super important, but I think in order to make that thing get into the right hands and appeal to the right people, we got to make it look good on the outside too. That's just the way the consumer is.
Yeah, you have to present all of this hard work.
Sure.
You can't just drop the baton right when you're at the finish line.
Yeah.
With bad design.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Well, it doesn't bode well for people who are like career coffee if they're gonna, like, if every owner, not to put you on the spot,
Sure.
but if every owner thought, well, I don't really want people with coffee experience, then what value is there in getting coffee experience?
Sure. No, I think there's a huge value in coffee experience, but I think we have to start someplace, right? And
Yeah.
like there are a lot of people that really love coffee and really want to know more about coffee, and it's something that's teachable, whereas there are certain qualities in people that are not teachable and they just come naturally, like customer service stuff. People who have gone to school for other things that would hugely benefit most of our businesses. Things like that are super important too. So like, yeah, coffee experience is super important, but it'd be great if people got coffee experience from specialty coffee shops and not just like a big box shop out there,
Oh,
too.
sure.
Because those are habits that we got to break, right? So it's kind of the quality of the coffee experience too that you have to have.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody who is wanting to become a barista?
Sure.
As that's the entry point for the coffee career.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best thing for them to focus on? How to set them on the right trajectory?
Man, I think just asking a lot of questions, really. And then like if your local shop has opportunities to go to like a workshop and learn something new, whether it be like pour over classes or maybe somebody's offering espresso training, that's cool too. But yeah, I think it's just asking questions and really valuing like the experience that you're being provided in your shop too. And honestly, like go get a job at Starbucks. If that's what you want to do, go do it. I would say that like me and my director of operations both spent years with Starbucks and some hugely valuable like experiences there, like systems, processes that they do super, super well. And that's been really beneficial to me to have those kinds of people on my staff. So
Yeah.
huge.
What's your favorite part about working the bar?
It's the people. I'm going to keep coming back to that every time, but like people that are willing to like open up. I mean, it's sort of the bartender job without people like crying into their beer, right? They're just like opening up over time maybe, but it's really great to just like have like conversations about real life with real people. And a lot of really cool things happen in coffee shops. A lot of really cool businesses and ideas are dreamt up in coffee shops. So that's really fun to watch too.
Families, you get to see families grow.
Totally.
Wow, that's trippy too.
Yeah.
When the kids start, when the kid that wasn't there in the world, like 5 years ago, starts drinking your coffee.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Nice. End on people. People are the point.
Yeah, I mean that's why we are doing what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Is to serve people.
Yeah, we're biased. We're people too. So
Yeah. I like people.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, cool. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
man.
I appreciate you taking the time talking to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so I'm here with Rita Kaminsky, the co-founder of Snowdrift Coffee and Workspace out in, where in Illinois is it?
We are in Roscoe, Illinois.
Roscoe.
Yeah, so that's just north of Rockford.
Okay.
And about 5 miles south of the Wisconsin border.
All right, a lot of
Yeah.
snowdrifts up there.
Yeah.
You're going to get snowy.
I hope so. I mean, we just moved in March, so we haven't experienced a full winter yet.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Goody. So I'm excited to hear a little bit about your story, to catch everyone up to speed with kind of your journey in coffee. You've been in coffee for how long?
Oh, gosh, about 16 years.
That's a while.
Yeah.
Where have you worked in coffee? You've had a lot of experience throughout the years, just both being a barista, manager, trainer, educator, everything really, right? So give us the rundown.
Yeah, so I learned how to become a barista at Altera Coffee Roasters, which I really have to thank them. I had the most amazing trainer, and honestly, I make espresso almost the same way I did when they trained me,
Nice.
And then later on, I ended up relocating to Portland, Oregon. I had the most amazing opportunity to work with the Miletos at the American Barista and Coffee School.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was Matt Mileto who actually really encouraged me to compete way back in 2006 at the Northwest Regional Barista Competition. And he had invited Billy Wilson to come down and do a mock run-through. to show us what it was all about. And I thought, I'm really bad on stage. I get really nervous, but this could be my shot to get a great coffee job.
Yeah.
This is a way for people to notice that I really care about coffee. And sure enough, I did okay. I ended up placing 9th in that regional. And lo and behold, that weekend, Billy hired me for the Albina Press.
Yay.
Yeah. So, it was a great experience. I've worked with some amazing people at the Albina Press. Matt Higgins, who now owns Kova.
Wow. Okay.
Mindy Farley, who now has the Red E. Josh Heidman was the first roaster for Hart. It was an all-star crew. It was amazing. And Billy was an amazing trainer. Very, very strict. But man, I honed my milk and my God shot ristrettos like
It's all
no
about
other.
the God shot then. Yeah.
So yeah, I stuck it out for about 5.5 years there, and then I had an opportunity to go down to El Salvador, and I had met Ada Botley a few years before.
Nice.
And we had a mutual friend, Sarah Allen. And she was, so Ada had a coworker at the mill who was really interested in competing in the El Salvadorian barista competition.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was an amazing opportunity. Go down to El Salvador for a couple months and train for the competitions. And I had been judging for a little bit, and it just seemed right up my alley. And so as much as I love the Albina Press and it really took me places, it was an opportunity I couldn't say no to.
Right.
So I went down there for a few months. Iris ended up placing 3rd, which was really exciting.
Good.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And then after that, I thought, I don't have a job, so I'll keep traveling until I run out of money.
As you do.
Yeah. And so I went over to Australia. I spent 3 months in Melbourne working cash in hand barista jobs.
Wow.
Yeah. Melissa Muckerman was actually there at the time.
Okay.
And she was changing jobs, and so she slipped me into that restaurant. And it was the most amazing experience. If anybody ever has a chance to go to Melbourne for coffee, it's unbelievable. It's the scene is unreal. The palate of the customers is, I can't compare it to anything else. It's truly, I don't know if I can swear on this, but I had my ass handed to me. Like it was amazing. It was the busiest bars I've ever worked. It was incredible.
We should all go to Australia.
Yeah. And then while I was there, I was contacted by Andrew Barnett, and he was looking to open his new business, Linea Cafe.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's Andrew Barnett. I couldn't say no. He is one of my coffee heroes. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I jumped at that opportunity after my visa ran out in Australia. I relocated to the Bay Area and helped him open Linea Cafe.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was the director of operations there. I learned an immense amount, really honed my palate with him, had a great time. But then again, I was given another opportunity to take a new position that I had never had before. Mm-hmm. Equator Coffees and Teas was looking for a sales coordinator and equipment buyer and somebody to run their service department.
Yeah.
So this was something completely new to me, and I couldn't pass it up.
No, man, these are some great opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I've learned so much from all of my different jobs, and it's each job I've collected so many different techniques, ideas, and skills that I've been really lucky to have a lot of different positions.
Awesome. What are some of the lessons that you have learned while being a barista?
It's actually perfect that you and I are talking here at a barista competition, mm-hmm. honestly. Some of the best lessons I've learned were from competing in that barista competition.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. The months leading up to competition, and I don't know if it was just because I was so nervous to be on stage that I needed to really memorize and perfect my routine just to not embarrass myself, but the way that I had to focus on every single thing that I was doing before I got on that stage really made me aware of every single movement that I was making.
Yeah.
And so after that competition, I decided to start judging. And one of the reasons were those tech score sheets. Sensory, that comes and goes. Coffees come and go.
Sure.
Sometimes you get lucky with your shots, but you never know what's going to happen when you get on stage during that prep time. But those tech score sheets, those are true. That's what you do every single day, all day long. So when I got those score sheets and I saw all those no's and all those dings off my scores and really analyzed it and thought, gosh, those are all the mistakes that I'm making. Those are all the imperfections that are happening when I'm making a shot of espresso that needs to change. Mm-hmm. And it really changed the way that I make coffee. Again, it really motivated me to be more of a perfectionist and really aware of every single movement and action that's happening. And when I become consistent as a barista is when I can really start to hone in and understand coffee better.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that because when you're in control of everything you're doing, you can trust what your hands are doing and you can kind of diverge your attention to something else?
Exactly. You're taking out all the variables.
Okay. Yeah. And I don't know why I never thought of it that way. Like, the tech score is the truth about you.
It really is.
And the other is the crop. It could be the crop of coffee, or the coffee was baggy.
Right.
Let's scapegoat the coffee. It's totally the coffee's fault, obviously.
Always. I mean, that's the thing is we know there are a million variables in brewing a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. But if your technique is exactly the same every time, that's where you can really make those adjustments and find out how to make that coffee better.
You've managed a lot.
I have.
Yeah. And so, and it sounds like you kind of started almost managing.
I have.
Yeah.
I'm an old soul.
Well, in all that time, you see baristas come, you see baristas go. Mm-hmm. It is unfortunately a transient industry.
Yes.
And in some cases, we do make the world of other industries better because we train baristas to be great with people, and then, it's great. Mm-hmm. But what do you see is the number one mistake with baristas coming into a space where they kind of cut themselves off at the knees a little bit? When is it like they're passionate about coffee but they just like overwhelm a customer, or is it just like they're cocky about their skills from a former barista job? Like, what are the main things that you've seen like, this is really going to hurt your career?
Yeah, especially coming from Portland.
Yeah.
And I will be the person to admit that I was that barista that thought it was okay to say no, or that my ideas were right and the customers were wrong.
Yeah.
And as much as, we're all, interested, obviously we love the culinary aspects of coffee and the craftsmanship of coffee, but we are in the service industry. And to remember that first and foremost, that as much as we love a product and we think we might be right or wrong, the customer is first. It is the service industry when you're behind that bar.
And it's ultimately the regularity with which those customers come into the store that provides for your job, your salary.
Absolutely. Yeah. What they prefer, there's no right or wrong to what people prefer. That's their preference.
Sure.
And we all know everybody has a different palate, and to really come full circle, and understand that everybody's right in what they want.
So it sounds like we need patience a little bit with people.
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I wish everybody drank black coffee and espresso.
Oh yeah. Totally.
But it's those magical moments as a barista when you have that extra minute to talk to somebody about coffee and go, you get this latte every single day. I've got a couple extra minutes. Can I just make you this cappuccino just to see if you like it?
Yeah.
Those are the moments that really affect your life and change theirs as well.
Yeah, you're doing something for them and serving them, even in that little moment where it's a risk. Maybe they won't like it. Mm-hmm. You can make that drink that you love, and what are you going to do with that? Mm-hmm. Like, if they don't like it, are you going to still like them? And, are you going to judge them later for not liking that cappuccino? Or
sure.
whatever?
Bone dry cappuccino. Excuse me? We don't do that here. I don't scoop. But then coming full circle. But then going and thinking, you know what? That's what that person's used to. That's what that person wants. I'm going to make them the best bone dry cappuccino they have ever had in their life.
Yeah. And so, I used to work at a grocery store coffee bar where a customer would weigh the cup in their hand,
Yeah.
Like, and send it back.
Absolutely,
Like,
right?
Pour it out if there's any liquid dripping out of the cup. Like, it's all foam. So that's funny. So serving people, they're a part of our coffee community. And it's weird sometimes how we don't consider a customer as part of that coffee community that we sometimes talk about in competitions. Like we talk about the farmer, we talk about our fellow baristas and the roasters, and sometimes the customer doesn't make it their way into that talk.
It's true.
It's weird. Yeah. So what do you advise a barista who's wanting to get it, or future barista who's wanting to get into coffee, and what should they focus on? What should they keep in mind as they go forward so that they're set on the right path?
Gosh, I think my best advice is to not put anything into a box and to always keep an open mind. You know, there's a lot of, I don't like naturals, or I don't like Indonesians, or, you know, and to just really let that go and to take every coffee, you know, as a new experience, and just to know that there is no right or wrong. There are no absolutes. This is an agricultural crop. You know, every day, every moment is a new moment. Also, just again, is to really hone in your skills and become a very consistent barista. You know, that's number one to really discovering how to make the best coffee.
Yeah, good. And you've been tech judging this weekend.
I have.
Yeah. So you just pushed right forward into it. Went from like, man, these tech sheets really got me. Now I'm judging tech.
Pretty much.
Full circle.
Honestly, those tech sheets devastated me when I got them. And I'm a Virgo perfectionist. I couldn't let it go.
Nice.
I had to fix it, you know?
Yeah.
But also, I mean, as a tech judge, not only am I helping baristas hone their skills that they're using every single day, but I'm also learning a new technique every year. I get to see the hottest tools every year, you know, and it also equalizes the playing field. You know, some of our favorite famous baristas aren't the most perfect on the tech that you think they are. And so it kind of makes it, you know, and some of those dark horses or quiet ones in the corner will really shock you.
I just want a book. Are you going to write a book, like a tell-all?
Oh my gosh, right?
On the tech scores of the famous coffee people.
Oh, I try to keep it a secret.
Yeah,
but
good. Probably was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rita, thank you so much for spending time and talking barista craft with me.
Absolutely. I'm not the most eloquent, but it's been such a pleasure. I'm very flattered that you interviewed me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I really hope that you guys had a great time listening to people in this episode talk about the barista craft and their experiences in specialty coffee. I really love doing these episodes because just being able to sit across from folks who have had such unique experiences, and they're sharing them with us so that we can benefit from the lessons they learned. We need to learn our own lessons in our careers, that's true, but we can never have too many mentors in a sense. There are people who influence us in our careers and people who we respect, people who speak truth into our lives that alters our course in our career or even personally. And it's my hope that just some of the things that were said today are going to take root in your heart, in your mind, and perhaps positively impact the trajectory of your career as a barista or a manager, a roaster, whatever you end up being in the specialty coffee world. I think that this type of input is very, very valuable. We heard from owner of Quills Coffee, Nathan Quillo, how, you know, when you are really educated but also humble and have great people skills, this is the kind of thing that will advance you as a professional. And it's the kind of thing that advances us as an industry as well. And that is the kind of position you should take. It's the kind of stance you should take as a professional. Be very educated, but also be very humble. We also heard from Sam Miers of Kaldi's in St. Louis, and it's really stressing the importance of simplicity in the way we approach coffee. Celebrate the small steps that people take. It might not be the kind of thing that we want them to drink, but if they're taking a small step in the right direction, we should be able to really celebrate that with them and make sure that we have a stance of embracing people without judgment, is what Sam is trying to communicate to us in his interview. And now then we talked with the great Cimara Dunn the director of education for Quills Coffee. And one of the things that she emphasized was if you want to get ahead and be on the right trajectory as a barista, ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions to the people around you, even if you're just a customer and you want to maybe dip your toe in as a barista. Before you do that, start asking questions. And we as baristas who currently have some experience, we need to be welcoming too. We need to be patient because, as Cimara was saying, people were patient with her and her questions, and she wants to pay it forward. And this is Cimara telling us as an industry, hey, reach out to people, be patient with them, embrace them, answer their questions. And you yourself also, to advance yourself, ask more questions. It's okay not to know everything. And if you don't ask questions, it can stunt your growth. Matt Park is the co-owner of Plus Coffee. Matt really emphasized the people part of the job, and his advice for us as baristas is similar to Cimara. Ask a lot of questions, take classes that are offered, and you should value the experience that you do get. So, don't hate on the idea of working at a chain because you can learn a lot from where you are. And one of the things that really is of benefit is being able to draw lessons from where you are. So finally, we talked with Rita Kaminsky, who's the co-founder of Snowdrift Coffee, Roscoe, Illinois, and her experience in the coffee industry is just stunning. And her advice to us is simply that we keep an open mind. Let go of your presuppositions about coffees. There's no absolutes in coffee, and you need to take each coffee as it comes. And, don't dismiss it because it's a natural and you hate naturals. Keep an open mind. You'll be surprised and you'll grow as a professional. And she leaves us with the idea, and of course, she's a longtime tech judge at the Barista Championships. Hone in your skills. Become a very consistent barista. That's the number one way you can discover how to make the best coffee. And as she calls, the tech sheets are like the truth about who you are as a barista. They don't lie. And her advice to us to keep an open mind about coffee and develop ourselves technically to be consistent, that is just gold. So thanks, Rita. Now, all this advice, all of the experience from our 5 guests today, I think can together really push you forward in your career in coffee. So I hope that you take it and use it and that it was beneficial. Now, if you want to know more about Keys to the Shop, you can go to keystotheshop.com. You can find this show as well as the show notes for this episode and the links to all the companies where the guests today work. There you can also find all of the past episodes of the show that you can peruse. Lots of good content there. If you want to reach out to me directly, it's chris@keystotheshop.com. Look forward to hearing any comments or questions, ways that I can make the show better for you and more valuable. I am all ears, so that'd be great. It was my honor to have these professionals on this 50th episode of Keys to the Shop, and my thanks to you for faithfully listening to this show. And as always, I hope that this episode, as well as all of the past episodes on the show, have given you keys to the shop.